Headline news.
Thank you, Tom. What happens when Hollywood and the underworld meet? Find out on the next edition of Inside Southern California. Tune in next week as we talk with former actor and author Steve Stevens and his co-author Craig Lockwood. You'll find out what it's like to be a young actor in Hollywood who is good friends with public enemy #1. Inside Southern California airs on Channel 3 Monday evening at 7:30 and Tuesday evening at 5. There's a tiny bit of good news at the gas pump this week for San Diego County. According to the Utilities Consumers Action Network, the average price of unleaded gasoline in San Diego County is $3.29. That's down by 2 cents from last week's average, but we'll take it. And that's the news for this morning. North County, thank you so much for watching. I'm Lynn Harper. CNN Headline News is next. Hello and welcome to Inside Southern California. I'm Lynn Harper. We're going to meet a man who's had an amazing life. In his world, Hollywood and the underworld came together. So stay with us. We'll be right back.
What is that thing?
Looks like somebody's double chin. Must have lost it snacking on fruits and vegetables.
Somebody's gonna trip on that.
Make contact. Make friends.
Make fun.
Friends.
Trouble.
Make a point.
Make it happen.
Make believe.
Like good.
Make new.
Make
clear.
Make up your mind.
Make peace.
Make inroads.
Right.
Reference. Make change.
Make sense.
Make hate. Make something. Make a stand. Make art. Make a difference. Make a difference.
Make noise.
Welcome back. This is Inside Southern California, and I promised you an amazing guest, and that's exactly what you're going to get. So let me introduce you to Steve Stevens. Welcome, Steve.
Thank you.
Thank you so much
Nice
for
to
coming.
see you.
Steve, I want to tell everybody about Steve Stevens sort of from the beginning, because when we get closer to the reason that you're actually here, I want them to know who they're looking at and who they're listening to. Is fair enough?
Fair enough.
Okay. Steve, you started out life, obviously, as a baby, and then you were an actor in Hollywood back in the great old days.
Yep, started in 1950. Snuck into a studio. Got discovered by a director named Frank Wisbar. He put me into 3 shows, and that was it.
What was it like back then?
Well, it was, you know, that was old Hollywood. You know, I got to work with some really big stars in the studios. You'd walk down the studio streets and you see the cowboys and the Indians and the gladiators, and it was just special. It was just a special feeling. You'd walk down. I sold newspapers on Hollywood and Vine when I was 13 years old, and my customers were Humphrey Bogart, Clark Gable, Larry Fine of the Three Stooges, Slapsy Maxie Rosenblum. I mean, it was just amazing. They walked down the streets. Brown Derby was right down the block.
So did you want to be part of that crowd even when you were a kid selling papers?
I didn't know whether I wanted to be part of that crowd, but I sure wanted to be next to it.
Well, speaking of next to it, I have a picture that I think I'd like to show everybody. It's probably is it one of the first things you did where you were one of the Bowery, well, the Bowery boys?
Right.
Let's take a look at that particular picture. Look at that, Steve. Which one are you in there?
I'm the one with that kind of funny little hat looking right at Hunt's Hall there.
Yep.
And the black shirt. That was so exciting to, you know, to be 13 years old and get to work with, you know, the Bowery boys, Leo Gorcey, Hunt's Hall. I mean, what more could a kid ask for?
Well, we can still see those movies. They're rerunning them like crazy,
All
but
the
what an
time.
exciting group.
Really exciting group.
And then you went on to a number of television shows, and thank goodness we were able to get a lot of tapes so everybody can actually see. Saying, gee, Steve Stevens was in the Joe Palooka series isn't as good as watching Steve Stevens in the Joe Palooka series.
That's exciting.
Wanna
You have
see?
that?
I have it.
Well,
Wanna see it?
cool.
Okay, let's take a look. look. Steve and Joe Palooka.
You belt in the eye. You and who else? Me and me.
Oh, my God.
Want to make something of
Steve,
it?
you were the one on the right.
Oh, yeah. I mean, if that doesn't look like really dead-end kids, I don't know what.
Oh, my gosh.
They were always picking me to play tough guy roles. You know, I don't know why. At that time, I guess, you know, I had some moxie, as they used to say, and it worked for me.
I guess so. But you know, the role I think that most kids in America envied you for, and little girls too, was when you guessed it on the Roy Rogers television series. I mean, how great is that?
I envied myself. I was so excited to get to work with the King of the Cowboys.
Don't forget the Queen of the West.
And Queen of the West, too. But, I mean, to Roy Rogers, I mean, today people don't understand, kids don't understand. That was the superhero. He was the biggest superhero in the world at that time. And I got to work one-on-one with him.
Well, let's take a look.
Wow.
There he is. Wow.
The Roy Rogers Show, starring Roy Rogers, King of the Cowboys.
Say, mister, you ought to tell this to my father.
Oh.
Pat Brady.
Who's he? He's a police officer.
He was one of the
That's
original
who he
Sons of the
is.
Pioneers.
You mean he used to be?
I read that.
He sure
I'll tell you
did.
where I read that
He used to be
later.
just about the
So there
toughest
you are.
patrolman in Omaha. And
There
the
I
smartest.
am.
He'll catch those old bandits for you.
I saw this entire clip, by the way, the whole
Maybe
show,
we
and you
better
actually
tell Roy
starred. You were
Rogers
all
about
the way
him.
through it. You had scenes
Why?
with Roy
Who's
and
Roy
Dale,
Rogers?
Yeah.
Pat Brady, the whole bit.
The whole story was based about my father, who everybody thought was a coward. Well, here you've got another scene with Roy.
I thought I ought to
So,
talk to you, Mr. Rogers.
what was Roy like
I
to
heard
work
about
with?
those bandits that shot a man and tried to steal his
The
map.
first thing I remember
Mr. Rogers
is
and I are talking. Why don't you go back to
arriving
your
on the
mother?
set,
Yeah.
come over and introducing himself to me.
Oh.
And Dale did the same thing. Then came lunch. And then he'd go to the dressing room. Here in the hot degrees at the Iverson Ranch in Chatsworth, they sat out on a table with the rest of the cast and the crew. It was like they were just like one of you. You were one of them. That was amazing to me. They weren't standoffish. They were friendly, although they did have a cuss. Dale had a cuss box on the set. And I would cuss when I'd screw up my lines, and she would make me put a quarter in the cuss box. So by the third day, I would come in and give her $1. So I was good for 4 cusses.
So when you said you envied yourself, there's one more person that was probably more desired to be with even than Roy Rogers, and that she only is identified by one name, Annette.
Annette Funicello.
And you dated her.
Well, the studio set it up for us to date, but...
Let's take a look, though, at Annette
okay.
Funicello. Don't tell me that's a couple
well,
of love, Steve. Come
there
on.
we are on her first series that she starred in, and I guess Disney thought we looked good together, so they sent us to the Emmys, the Golden Globe Awards, you know, all those kind of things, and we became very, very good friends, and everybody thought we were lovers, but we were not.
Oh, well, now you just blew all of that
Yeah.
because I was hoping for a little bit more inside information. Let's take a look, though, Steve, at what you actually did on camera with Annette, because you already described your
that as
relationship.
well?
Oh,
Wow.
yes, we do.
How
We
exciting.
got it all. You'd be surprised. So let's take a look.
They dance well together, don't they? Huh?
Steve, I bet you were the envy of every red-blooded American boy dancing with her, Annette. Whoa.
You bet. I mean, everybody thought that she was special, and she was special. She was a wonderful young lady at that time. Didn't act like a star. She was just, you know, one of the group. Very, very special. But yes, a lot of the guys envied me.
I bet, because all the little girls just loved Annette and wanted to be Annette. If you didn't want to be Queen of the West, then you wanted to be Annette.
You betcha.
But then you got a little older, and there was a heartthrob on television that I think a lot of girls really loved, and that would be the Zorro character, and you got to guest star on Zorro.
Guy Williams played Zorro.
Yep. So let's take a look at you. You would be the guy on the left with Guy Williams. How about if we show an actual clip and see what Steve Stevens did guesting on Zorro? Want to see it?
Yeah, you bet. I haven't
All
seen
right.
it in years.
Well, we're going to take a look at you now. Here he comes. Steve.
since you're really determined to go through with this duel...
I have no alternative.
You do not want to be known as a live coward, eh?
There's some things worse than dying, Don Diego.
But there is nothing quite so permanent, my friend. Wait, I will get the rapiers and we will practice.
Oh, do you fence, Don Diego?
Me? Oh, hardly ever. But Bernardo, my servant, he's quite skilled with the blade. He will test your mettle and fence with you.
He was a terrific fellow to work with. In fact, 10 years later, I became his agent.
You became Guy Williams' agent?
10 years, almost to the day.
Because you were really quite a heartthrob yourself there. You look really good in that outfit, I'll tell you.
Thank you very much.
So how was it in Hollywood when you began the Zorro series and all these things with the girls? I mean, did they just go crazy for you?
Kind of like they do today. I mean, it was still amazing. I don't mean to me today, but to other young actors, you know, that are on series or on television. You walk down the street, oh, there's so-and-so, can I have your autograph? You know, that kind of thing. And I thought that was very, very special. A lot of fan mail letters. It was great. It was wonderful. I loved it.
And you sword fought, so did they teach you how to do that?
Yes. I spent 7 weeks learning how to sword fight, and it took like, you know, one take, and the whole story is I don't know how to sword fight, and I defend the honor of a girl I'm in love with. So therefore, Zorro comes in. I play his nephew, Don Rodolfo de la Vega, and he comes in and saves the night by injuring the man's hand so that he can't show up for my sword fight.
But you must have really enjoyed that part.
Oh, I did. And just there again to be on the Disney lot and work with those kind of people was wonderful.
Well, then you began a series of interesting pictures. We have a still of you in a picture called Joyride. I think that was back in 1958, right? Let's take a look at this still. Joyride, of course, that's you in the lineup there. And where did that come from?
Well, that was just an independent, you know, hot rod teenage picture of that era. There again, you know, playing a punk. I don't know why. And there's the lineup. You know, we did some bad things and they catch us.
Well, don't worry about punk because you continued your TV guest starring, and I believe Gunsmoke was one of the biggest series back then, and you were, of course, guest star in that.
And there again, it was exciting, and I eventually became Amanda Blake's agent, who played Miss Kitty, which is really interesting.
You've been an agent to half the people you starred with.
Yeah, that's true.
And so on Gunsmoke, this is the episode that we had where you sword fight, now you ride. I think this is you coming into the scene now.
I discover, I discover an Indian lady and go back and tell everybody that the Indians are there on the warpath kind of thing, and it causes this whole problem.
Have you always been able to ride, or did they have to teach you that?
No, I've been riding for a long time, and I think that's probably anybody could have done this acting job. I think I got it because I could ride. To be honest with you. They wanted somebody who could act and ride, and I fit the bill.
Well, by that time, you had so many guest starring and movies, and there was a movie that really caught my attention, High School Caesar. I actually saw High School Caesar several times, reruns and all. Tell me a little bit about that, only because John Ashley, I believe, starring in that movie along with you, was also a roommate of yours.
Yes, he was, and John Ashley at that time was the king of the B movies. He was American and National star, and he did dozens of these kind of films. Actually, this one was Roger Corman's company, Film Group, and Roger Corman financed it.
Yeah.
We shot it in Chillicothe, Missouri, because the director, writer, producer came from Chillicothe, Missouri, and wanted to go back there and show everybody he made it in Hollywood. So there we went and shot this hot rod movie in Chillicothe, Missouri, and it was the #1 drive-in film in that year of that kind of cult.
Well, let's take a look at it. We got it.
And you're playing a game that you'll never get win.
Can I see it again, Matt?
Okay.
Wow, look at that.
It's pretty, isn't it?
$75 for 1 week's take. I can't believe it.
We got a lot of things going for us now.
We got the dance on Fridays, we got the protection insurance, and my file of tests.
Yeah. Boy,
I'm playing a nerd.
eating right out of your hand.
It's the first time I ever played a nerd. Do you believe this?
Not after what I've seen of you before.
In a movie called High School Caesar, I'm playing the nerd.
That's John Ashley not playing
the nerd. That's John
the
Ashley playing the lead. You know, which is kind of interesting. You know, looking
but it shows
up
your
to this
range.
kind of guy. Yeah.
You know, it shows
and it was fun doing it. I kind of like, you know, felt like early Jerry Lewis in this movie.
But Steve, that shows you're comedic. You know, that you had a wide range of characters that you could play, and ultimately it served in good stead because, gee, look, you became an agent and understood what it was like from the actor's point of view.
You betcha.
Well, you know what I really love to do? I'd like to take a quick break. And when we come back, I think I mentioned when we first introduced ourselves to our viewers that you had one foot in Hollywood and another foot in the underworld.
Uh-oh.
How the underworld and Hollywood came together, and people are thinking, well, what's this underworld? I mean, here we see an actor who's obviously very successful from childhood, but underworld most definitely was in your life. So what do you say? We'll take a break, and we're going to come back and show everybody what we meant. So if you stay right where you are, you'll find out what we were talking about. Believe me, it's worth hanging in there. Be right back.
Find ways to make your home more defensible against wildfire. What have you got to lose? Except everything.
You don't need to be bigger than life to be a good dad. You just need to spend time with your kids. It takes a man to be a dad.
Welcome back. You're watching Inside Southern California. I'm Lynn Harper, and my special guest is Steve Stevens. And Steve, once again, I have to thank you for coming.
My pleasure.
Well, you know, we promised at the beginning of this program that you had one foot in the underworld, one foot in Hollywood. We know about Hollywood. Are you ready for the underworld?
You bet.
Okay. The name, Mickey Cohen, used to strike fear in some people's hearts, and some people maybe envy. I don't know. You came to meet Mickey, but before we find out how you did that, tell everybody who might not know the name, who was he?
Meyer Mickey Cohen was raised in Boyle Heights, California, was a newspaper boy, got into the rackets very early, became a fighter. Good Jewish fighter, they said in those days, okay? Wound up going to Chicago and became a gunzel, robbing this, robbing that, get arrested, get out of jail. Wound up working with Phil Capone, Al Capone's brother. And when the mob sent Benny Siegel to Los Angeles, to take over the LA rackets, they sent Mickey Cohen to watch his back. When Benny Siegel got into trouble with spending too much money and building the Flamingo Hotel, I guess the mob thought that he was on the take, putting money in his pocket. I guess the rumor goes that Mickey set up the hit.
Ooh.
And the next day, after Benny Siegel's assassination, Mickey Cohen then had the LA rackets and became public enemy number one.
Public enemy number one. And before we get to your connection with them, we have a couple of still pictures that I'd love for you to comment on. So let's take a look at these still pictures of Mickey Cohen. First of all, here's Mickey. What's the deal with Mickey there? Casual?
Well, very casual, which was very unusual because Mickey was usually seen in public, you know, with a double-breasted suit and a fedora, dressed to the nines. I guess Mickey wore those kind of outfits, maybe walking his dog, Mickey Jr., which was a little bulldog that looked just like Mickey Cohen, going to breakfast and maybe going to his ice cream parlor, the carousel.
Okay. And now we see Mickey at a sink washing his hands.
Okay. The expression on his face is he's looking at the photographer like if I was that photographer, I would disappear.
Whoa.
Mickey had a habit of washing his hands 50, 60 times a day. And he showered sometimes for 3 hours at a time.
Oh, my gosh.
And so the rumor was that he did this, so a photographer who had the balls to take that picture shot that picture, and it wound up getting in print.
Okay, and now we have a picture of Mickey with a bunch of other happy young gentlemen.
It looks like they were arrested. That was before the time that I knew Mickey, but it gives you a real feel of the arrogance, the attitude and the toughness of that man right there in the middle, all dressed up with his hat on with some of his boys.
Okay, and now my favorite picture. This is what's coming up from the one of the L.A. or San Francisco papers, because they're all over.
Mickey was amazing. How many times he got shot? They blew up his house. They put bombs in his car. He was shot several times, and he always pulled through. I mean, he was like Teflon. He kept on coming back and coming back and coming back, which was amazing.
Yep, well, that one's from the Call Bulletin in San Francisco, but I'm sure that the headlines went around the world. This was Public Enemy #1.
Yes, it was.
And I have a clip of Mickey Cohen I want to run because it directly impacts on the conversation that you and I are about to have. So let's take a look at this clip of Mickey Cohen actually speaking.
Well, forget I'm an uneducated person. I'm not out of a day of schooling. And it enabled me to meet people going into my way of life that I would have never been able to meet otherwise.
Okay, now he said that people coming into my life I wouldn't have been able to meet otherwise. That's where you come in. How about telling us how a 19-year-old actor from Hollywood, date of Annette, loved by everyone, you know, doing so well, came to be calling Mickey Cohen, Public Enemy #1, Uncle Mickey?
Well, you know, it is the strangest story, and it sounds like it is fabricated, but it's not. I received a fan mail letter saying, I like the way you play them bad guys. Signed, Mr. Michael. I own an ice cream parlor called the Carousel in Brentwood, which I knew about. A lot of us went there. My friends went there. I hadn't gone there yet. It was a great hangout. It was a 1930s, 40s style. And come and get some free ice cream. So I'm on a date one night, like, you know, all young actors, fancy new car, $2 in my pocket. You know, where am I going to take my date? Marlene Willis, wonderful girl, starred in Attack of the Puppet People. So I remembered I had this letter. It was in my glove compartment. I pulled it out. Bingo. We go to the Carousel ice cream parlor. I present the letter to a woman behind the counter. She says, oh, whatever you want, sit down. About 5 minutes later, my date, Marlene, over my shoulder, her eyes get about this big, and she says, oh my God, that's him. I said, him? Who? I thought maybe a movie star, somebody came in. She says, the guy that was on Mike Wallace's a year ago. He said he never killed anybody that did any killing.
Wow.
And as I turn around, there is Mickey Cohen with 3 of his bodyguards, his bulldog, humping my leg immediately, fell in love with me, and said, hi, I'm Mr. Michael. I later learned that that's the name he used so he wouldn't embarrass people when he called them, and said, hey, you guys remember that kid from that show? And the 3 guys went, yeah. I knew they had no clue of what he was talking about. He says, you play hearts? I go, no, I play poker. He says, oh, that's okay. He says, give me a pen. And he pulls out a napkin. He says, here's my address. He says, come on over tomorrow night if you want. He says, bring the young lady.
So that's how you met Mickey?
That was it.
Well, you know something? I'm going to take a quick break because we're going to kind of get ready to show everyone what your relationship with Mickey actually turned into. Are you fair game?
I'm fair game.
Okay, good. Well, just take a break right now. When we get back, you're going to see how this all comes together, and you won't be sorry. So stick with us.
Exercise your emotions. Attend a live orchestra concert. Go to findaconcert.com.
And welcome back. This is Inside Southern California, and I'm Lynn Harper. We've been talking with Steve Stevens. And Steve, amazing life, as I said earlier, and I'm sure nobody would disagree. So Mickey Cohen, Public Enemy #1, gives you his address, and then what?
I thought about it for about 24 hours and decided, why not? I went up there, met him, met the boys, and was with him for 2 years.
Wow. And so you have a hat?
Well, I thought, you know, just to get you in the mood and the feel of the 50s, you know, the gangster era, I thought I'd put that on for you.
Oh, it really suits you.
You like that?
I like that.
There you go, kid.
I like something else. I'm going to pick up this book, and I'm going to showcase it because that 2 years you spent with Mickey is now contained in the pages of this book. One of the most amazing reads I've ever had the pleasure.
Thank you.
Your collaborator and good friend happens to be sitting to your left, and we're going to take a look at him now. This is Craig Lockwood. Craig. Craig, you're responsible, basically, working with Steve on this book. So what I want to know is, how did this project come about?
Well, as you know, we went to school together, all of us, and at Hollywood Professional School, I was a class ahead of Steve, and Steve was quite a guy at school, and we all admired him. We had a kind of a group of us who all knew each other quite well and partied together. And we all knew when this started that Steve was sort of doing something kind of exciting, hanging out with a gangster, and we all knew who Mickey Cohen was. Of course, we weren't going to tell Steve that we knew. And as it happened, I had parked my car out in front of Steve's house when it broke down. I was going to UCLA at the time. And parked my car out in front of Steve's house, and then not too much after that, one of our other friends, very close friend, Jock Putnam, and I were stopped by the police and had my car torn apart. They took all my surfboards out and ripped the seats apart and threw us on the ground and just really treated us rough. We could never figure out what we'd done. We barely had parking tickets at that stage in our lives. We were all young. And we finally put two and two together that they were watching Steve, and so they were looking at any cars that were coming and going from his place.
So you were a part. Now this book, King of Sunset Strip, you wrote this book with Steve. Pictures of Mickey Cohen, Steve, his movies, television. You lived a life as teenagers that comes to life in this book. It took me 2 days to read this book. I could not put it down. But I want to know how you came from childhood friends, knowing that Steve knew Public Enemy #1 and was hanging out with him. And there's some stuff in this book that I don't want to give away a lot of stuff. But one thing really got to me, and this is a 19-year-old handsome young actor who somehow got crosswise with Mickey, and Mickey beat the tar out of him. Want to talk about that? Come to think of it? What caused Mickey to beat the tar?
I was given a gun by a gentleman by the name of Itchy Mendel because I did a good job the night before. I did something right, and he said, you need to have a gun for protection, just in case this thing happens again. I was on a run for Mickey. And so the first night that I have it, I carry it. I get stopped going through a red light on Sunset Boulevard. The highway patrol says, get out of the car, or the sheriff's. I get out. Forgetting that I have the gun in my band, in my pants, I step out of the car and the gun falls through my pant leg. Oh. Hits the pavement. Bingo, I'm down on the ground, you know, I got shankles. Some people are watching, looking. Some lady says, oh, he was in my restaurant last night with Mickey Cohen. Oh, all of a sudden, more shankles, more this, and I wind up in jail for the night. So I get bailed out, wind up going back to Mickey's. I walk down the hallway, I follow him down the hallway, he turns around, pops me and breaks my nose, screams at me, how dare you carry a gun, how dare you get arrested, blah, blah, blah.
And boy, oh boy, Steve sort of benefited in the long run from that. But Craig, great book. Any last words about what you want to have the viewers take away from this?
Well, it was as exciting writing this and reliving both of our youths, especially Steve's, and getting into Hollywood. Not the way it was, just the way it's never going to be again, because this was the Hollywood that Hollywood dreamed it was, and we had a chance as kids, young guys, to live that life.
Well, you can live that life again by reading the book. I don't mean to sound like a commercial, but when I read it, I was there. I was back in the 60s, maybe even the 50s and 60s, and I didn't want to leave it. So for all of you watching Inside Southern California, if you want to take that trip, all you have to do is get King of Sunset Strip, and you will be there, I guarantee you. I don't know if I can thank you enough, both of you.
Oh, thank you.
Great.
Thank you very much.
I mean, it's such a pleasure, Steve Stevens and Craig Lockwood. And I hope we can do something else again when the second book comes out.
Thank you.
And for all of you, I hope that you will tune in again next time. This is Inside Southern California. I'm Lynn Harper. Bye-bye.